Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Chico in California, which many of you might know happens to be home to Sierra Nevada Brewing Company, one of America's really pioneering craft breweries actually. We've got something a little bit different from these guys today. This one is the Northern Hemisphere Harvest Wet Hop IPA. It comes in at 6.7%, and the really interesting thing about this beer is that the hops that they use in this one are harvested and then they go to the brewery and are used in a brew within 24 hours. So it should be a really interesting beer, really interesting concept actually, just to see how you can really affect the flavours of the beer with the freshness of the hops. So definitely looking forward to try this one. When it comes to Sierra Nevada, we know we're going to get a really good quality beer. This one was rated 98 overall on Rate Beer when I checked out, of course, so it will be pretty damn good, and I hope you guys enjoy the review as well. It's always interesting to try different things from these guys because they have their core range and then they've got these kind of little random things that they do on the side as well, so it should be really interesting. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews I've done from Sierra Nevada before. There's no doubt will be more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of the beers from different countries as well. There is one for my American beers that I've done. Do check out the whiskey and sake reviews as well. And as always, please get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries you guys would like to see me review. Always interesting to hear from you guys, and your support of the channel is always hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Sierra Nevada then. So these guys were founded back in 1979 in Chico in California, when the founders Ken Grossman and Paul Camusi decided to expand their home brewing hobby into a fully fledged brewery. And like I mentioned to you, these guys really are considered one of the pioneering breweries in the American craft beer movement. So Ken Grossman actually learned to homebrew at a very young age from a friend's father, but in 1972 he went on a cycling trip to visit some friends in the northeast of California, stopping off in the town of Chico to visit them at the California State University campus, and it was there that he fell in love with the town and the culture, so he decided to move there, and in 1976 he opened up a homebrew supply store which was called the Home Brew Shop, and it was there that he met fellow home brewer Paul Camusi and got deeper into the art of craft brewing. So in 1979, the pair founded a small-scale brewery, taking the name from Ken Grossman's love of hiking in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and they created their first brewing equipment mainly out of recycled dairy equipment, and they actually made a lot of it themselves, and they completed this in 1980. So in 1983, Sierra Nevada opened their portfolio with 3 different beers. This was the Pale Ale, the Porter and the Stout, and they also produced the 10% Bigfoot Barley Wine, which really is considered one of the first examples of extreme brewing, and it's kind of a cult classic actually when it comes to American craft beers. But in 1984 they purchased a new 100-barrel copper kettle from Germany, but they couldn't afford to install it for another 3 years, and in 1987 they purchased the plot on 20th Street in Chico that would house this 100-barrel kettle, and this has been the location of the brewery ever since, and in 1989 they opened the doors to the tap room at the site of the brewery. So the company produced their first wet hop harvest ale in 1993, of course that is this series here, and that same year they also hit the 100,000 barrel mark of brewing beer per annum, of course. But the brewery further expanded in 1997, unveiling a new 200-barrel Hoopman brew house with the coppersmiths who produced the original copper kettle salvaged from Germany. They actually came out of retirement to make these for the brewery. But Paul Camusi decided to retire in 1998, and he sold his share in the brewery to Ken Grossman, and they added a 350-seater auditorium to the brewery in 2000. And one of the things that's really interesting about Sierra Nevada, in fact, is how much time they put into research. So they added a beer research lab to the exact scale dimensions of the main brewery, in fact, in 2005. But in 2008 the brewery introduced an event called Beer Camp, and this is where local restaurant and bar owners come to the brewery and have a hands-on experience of brewing the beer. And this really has become a quite regular event since then. And the company actually celebrated their 30th anniversary in 2010, and since that year they've had a partnership with the Abbey of New Clairvaux in Northern California, and they've been producing Trappist style beers, although the Abbey isn't officially certified by the International Trappist Association, and they actually now have a second brewery as well in Mills River, North Carolina, and also their Torpedo tasting room which is in Berkeley in California. And interestingly, this brewery has been powered completely by solar energy since 2007, and they actually won the Green Business of the Year award from the US EPA in 2010. And 99.5% of their solid waste is diverted from landfill, and they use biodiesel in their delivery trucks. They sell their excess grain to cattle ranchers and things like that. They're a very, very green friendly brewery, so it's a very interesting company to actually go and read about. But they've had the same head brewer since 1983, when they were producing 25 to 30 barrels of beer per week. This is about 13 to 1500 barrels per year, but now the production is about 780,000 barrels per year. I'm not sure if that is the facility in California alone, but obviously they've added this second facility in North Carolina, and they will be producing even more than that. So really quite cool company. As I said, one of the really pioneering breweries of the American beer market. Their core range of beers includes the Pale Ale, the Porter, the Stout, Torpedo Extra IPA, one of my favourite beers actually, and they have the Kellerweiss Hefeweizen as well that you can check out. So yeah, that's enough about the brewery just now. Let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So I'll just read out the little blurb that's on the back of this one for you before we get into the tasting of it. So it says here, Northern Hemisphere features hops from Yakima, Washington, picked and shipped to our brewery within 24 hours to capture hop aroma and flavour when they're their most profound. Northern Hemisphere is loaded with complex, earthy, green flavours of rose, grapefruit and pine. We brew in Chico, California, Mills River, North Carolina to bring you the finest quality beer. So, should be really nice. I'm guessing that this one, since it's come from Yakima, it's probably been brewed in the site in Chico rather than the one in Mills River in North Carolina. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. This one is hopped with Cascade and Centennial, and it's got a malt base of 2-row pale and caramel, so it should be a really quite nice straight up solid IPA, this one. So definitely looking forward to trying this. There you can see the kind of standard Sierra Nevada artwork on this one. It does say 2016 on the top there. I'll see if I can review the same one next year actually when it comes out, but there you can see one of the standard Sierra Nevada bottle caps. So without further ado then, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting. Really looking forward to this beer. This was one that I actually picked up in the Systembolaget small portiers back in Sweden, but I brought it home with me because I knew that my computer would be fixed and so I could start reviewing again, and probably it's one that you do want to drink fairly quickly, so this was one that you should drink fairly fresh if you do happen to get a hold of it. You might not get this one anymore, but you can look for the ones that come out next year. So this is actually a crystal clear beer. Look at that. You can see the tiny little bits of sediment just floating around in this one. Of course, that's something you just expect from craft beer. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see this beer really is quite transparent. If I hold it up to the light, it's almost a kind of chestnut colour, this one. It's a sort of deep kind of orangey amber colour. I'd even go as far as saying it's like a sort of light chestnut colour, this one. It looks very, very nice. There's a solid finger and a half of a frothy, slightly beigey cream head on this one. It looks absolutely lovely. Some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head there. But a really, really quite nice looking beer, this one. So we'll just take a look at the aroma before we get stuck into the tasting of this one. So yeah, you can get a nice little bit of grapefruit out of this one, of course. That's going to be your signature of the Cascade hop. There's a good bit of citrusy character in there as well, but a big kind of floral aromatic character. You know, when you've got Cascade and Centennial in this one, that's exactly what you're going to expect. Basically, nice sort of grapefruit notes, but also a sort of dark floral aromaticity. It's quite dank actually, this one. Maybe there's a bit of pine resin in there, but for me the malty character is coming out a bit too. You can pick up these nice sort of caramel malts in there. But that's a really quite nice smelling beer, that one. It's a little bit more malty than I was expecting, to be honest. I was expecting it to be a big kind of beast of a hoppy aroma, but it's got a good balance between the hops and the malts, in fact. So just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one before you get stuck into it. There's a little bit of a lighter grassy character coming out of the beer as well. When you sugar it up, you start to get more of these hoppy notes. The malty thing in there is a bit of biscuit, a bit of caramel, and some nice breadiness in there, but the hops are really kind of dominating the aroma with this one. You've got a nice grapefruit character, some nice floral aromaticity. Yeah, lovely smelling beer. Let's get stuck into this one then. So this one's the Northern Hemisphere Wet Hop Harvest IPA 2016 from Sierra Nevada over in Chico, California. Slàinte. That's pretty good. That really is quite a nice beer. Yeah, you know, in comparison to some of the other things I've had from Sierra Nevada, you know, this one is quite interesting because it's more of a kind of straight up IPA actually. They have been brewing ones more recently that are a little bit more complex and stuff like this, but this one, in a way, to me it feels like it's Sierra Nevada going back to kind of what they were in the old days actually. It kind of goes back to a little bit of the sort of paleo feel or the torpedo feel, and I do like that. As I said, torpedo is a kind of go-to beer for me because we can get it quite easily actually. But that's really nice. I do have to admit, I like this beer. So in terms of the mouthfeel and the flavours of this one, so the middle of your palate's kind of blanketed with this sort of bready malt base there. As you go on top of that, you're getting a little bit of a sort of grainy kind of biscuity thing. The American two-row malts, of course, they give you this nice bready base, and on top of that you get a little bit of an almost digestive biscuit sweetness in there. It really does remind me of that. You can feel that almost kind of, it's not quite corny syrup, but it's that kind of flavour that you get from the nice sort of sweet grains and digestive biscuits. Or I guess I should say cookies, so that it makes sense to those of you watching in America as well. But yeah, this is really nice. The sweetness in the malt base of this one is actually catching my eye quite a bit. I love how it comes out. As the flavour progresses, of course, that sweetness from the malt base just kind of lingers there in the middle of the tongue, and it's really quite nicely done. I love this blend of two-row and cara malts that they have here. It really is quite nice. That's lovely. The hoppy side of the beer is interesting as well. So at the side of the palate, you know, this is where a lot of the kind of floral aromatic character comes out, so you can feel with this one, to me there's actually a tiny little bit of earthiness in the back corner of the palate, but as you come further forward it becomes more kind of floral, and there's a bit of grassy character in there as well. It's mainly lighter and grassy as you go round the front curve of the palate, but there's a kind of dark and slightly bitter, almost dank floral aromaticity to this beer around the edge of the palate, but it's really nicely done. I just like the feel that this beer has. It's got a good bit of malty sweetness in it. As I've said previously in my reviews, I love it when they can balance the sweetness of the malt base with the hoppy characters of the beer, and they've done it really well with this one. For me, this isn't one of the punchier beers you're going to come across from Sierra Nevada. This one is more about how the flavours blend together, and it works very well. You wouldn't expect anything less from this brewery, of course, but I can see, you know, why this beer is quite highly rated. It's really drinkable and easy going. It's got both sides of the coin done very well. So yeah, on the fruity side of the beer, there's a little bit of grapefruit in there. It's really not too punchy in this beer for me though. If you just go behind the front curve of the palate, you'll feel that little oily bubble coming out, and that's where the grapefruit's sitting. There is a bit of citrusy character in there as well, and it actually mixes quite well with the floral aromaticity in this beer. It's a little bit spicy actually as you progress into the aftertaste, but the fruity characters in this one for me are nice and almost just a little bit subtle in comparison to the likes of the torpedo. But it's very nicely blended. The flavours in this one go really well together, and that's the point of this beer, is just for the flavours to blend so well together. They've done this one really quite nicely actually. I just like how it blends together. The biscuits, the sort of caramel in this one, the earthiness, the floral character, and then the fruits. It just goes together very well. So it's yet again another very solid beer from Sierra Nevada. And as I said at the start of the video, you really wouldn't expect anything less of them. So yeah, really good beer. If you get the chance to try this one, do have a go at it. I want to try the ones that come out in following years, just to see how different they are, because that could always be an interesting comparison. But you know, with this one, if you want a beer to be really punchy and hoppy, I would say stick to the torpedo, but if you like them to be a bit more blended in how they come across, then I think you really could quite enjoy this one. It does have a good bit of bitterness to it, but from my memory, it's nowhere it's not really close to bitterness in terms of bitterness to the Torpedo. So it's a really it's a really good beer, but this one's more about how the flavours blend together. But in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, then, this is mid-bodied, definitely has an oily mouthfeel. The carbonation, it's somewhere between crisp and moderate. It's got a good bit of carbonation to it, and it suits the floral character in the beer. Actually, the carbonation does help bring out a little bit more of the hoppy side of things. There's a good hoppy bitterness to it, but like I said, it's not the hoppiest beer you're going to come across from Sierra Nevada. There's a good bit of sweet malty presence in this one as well, and the fruity character is just there too. This one for me really is more about the kind of juicy fruits and the malty sweetness. There is a bit of hoppiness there, but like I say, not quite as bitter and punchy as the Sierra Nevada Torpedo. But again, a very, very solid beer. You'll never be disappointed with something that you find from Sierra Nevada. So if you get the chance to try the Wet Hop Harvest, it's a very interesting concept to the beer. And I do wonder if these flavours that I'm picking up are due to the fact that the hops in this one were so fresh when they were used. Maybe that's why it has such a big oily mouthfeel to it. But again, a very, very solid beer. If you get the chance to try it, I highly recommend that you do. So yeah, thank you once again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do check out all my social media as well. If you get the chance to try one of these Northern Hemisphere Wet Hop Harvest, then do give it a go. I'd love to see if they have a Southern Hemisphere one, because obviously some of the hops you're getting out in New Zealand these days are absolutely brilliant. It would be cool to see what one of the kind of pioneering American breweries would do with those. But a very, very good beer, definitely for those that love a kind of well blended IPA. A good bit of malty presence, but also a good bit of hoppy presence as well. So until the next time, slange you just now, and I'll catch you very soon with more beer reviews. The Northern Hemisphere Wet Hop Harvest IPA of 2016 from Sierra Nevada. Slange you just now.